Motown Records, a name that resonates with soul, innovation, and timeless records. It wasn't just a record label, it was a movement that broke barriers, created icons, and gave the world a sound like no other. Founded in 1959 in Detroit, Michigan, and also known as Hitsville, Motown became the birthplace of a new musical genre, a blend of soul, R&B, and pop that brought people together no matter their background. Behind the legendary Motown sound, and the man responsible for building that legacy from the ground up, was Berry Gordy. Born in Detroit and also a known songwriter, Berry Gordy borrowed $800 from his family's savings to start his own record label named Motown Records, and also bought a small house at 2648 West Grand Boulevard in Detroit, with that place becoming the first headquarters of Motown Records. Eventually, that tiny building became a hit-making factory, churning out some of the most iconic records in history.
He had tried to borrow monies from the bank or from different sources to make his first master, and he couldn't get that money from anywhere else, and he came to our little credit union and wanted to borrow the $800. And of course we had to take a vote on it because he didn't have that much in, and the vote was positive, and he got his first $800 and made his first master, and the rest is history as far as Motown is concerned.
So what made Motown so special? Berry Gordy meticulously crafted the perfect blend of soul, R&B, and pop, alongside tight instrumentation from the legendary Funk Brothers. By applying the assembly line approach he learned at the Ford factory, with each song going through rigorous quality checks. In 1959, the same year Berry Gordy founded Motown Records, Harry Belafonte became the first African American to produce a Hollywood film through his own company. That, alongside the social change promised by the 1954 Topeka school desegregation decision and the new civil rights activism, made this a lucrative time to be in the entertainment business as an African American.
You know, Berry went bankrupt. He and a brother, they had a record shop, and Berry loves jazz music, and he was trying to sell jazz music, and people would come in and they'd want to buy Fats Domino and kind of rock or rhythm and blues material, and he would just try to sell them or encourage them to take this jazz.
It took him a time, but he found out during this time that, hey, I got to sell something that's going to be commercial and I can make me some money.
The early artists who have signed to Motown Records in the late 50s and early 60s were Marvin Gaye, Little Stevie Wonder, The Temptations, The Marvelettes, and The Miracles, which included a young Smokey Robinson, whose single titled Shop Around became Motown's first million-selling single in October 1960. Then just a year later, Motown achieved their first #1 single, named Please Mr. Postman, by The Marvelettes. However, what made Motown iconic was their approach to artist development. Given that many of the talented young artists had been raised in housing projects and lacked the necessary social and dress experience, artist development was not only necessary, it created an elegant style of presentation long associated with the label, also making the acts on the label ambassadors for other African American artists seeking acceptance into pop culture in the 1960s.
The first day we opened Artist Development, and I said to them, "You are not the greatest singers in the world, but you're young, you have talent, some of you are attractive, some are lovely, beautiful, good-looking. The one thing we were going to offer you is class and finesse, and to be a great performer, which means you have to work hard."
Within the first 10 years of Motown Records being founded, they had achieved 20 #1 records, with 12 of them coming from the most successful female singing group of all time, the Supremes, with the group's superstar lead singer Diana Ross bringing worldwide attention to the record label.
The neighborhood that I grew up in, that was our natural outlet. We all sang, and it was a reflection of our feelings. And usually it was very happy music and something we did all the time. My mother is the baby of 12 children, and we come from a very religious family, and they were gospel singers, and they sang in the choir. So it was just a natural order of things for me to be a singer and a performer.
Marvin Gaye was another Motown success, releasing classics such as Heard It Through the Grapevine, What's Going On, and Let's Get It On. With some of those recordings becoming so influential, they created R&B subgenres such as neo-soul. Little Stevie Wonder signed to Motown Records in 1961, aged 11, and by 1970 would go on to release 11 studio albums, then winning 2 Grammy Awards back-to-back in 1974 and 1975, but perhaps his magnum opus was his 1976 album titled Songs in the Key of Life, one of the most recognisable and accomplished albums in pop music history. By the mid-70s, Stevie Wonder had become one of the most influential and acclaimed black musicians ever.
Music doesn't belong to any one particular person. It's a form of expression that we are given the ability to use to express our feelings and to feed off of each other. So I've tried to always grow musically.
Motown didn't just create great music, it shattered barriers. During the heights of the civil rights movement in the 1960s, Motown's artists were breaking onto mainstream charts and performing on shows like The Ed Sullivan Show, showing the world that black artists could dominate pop culture. Their success inspired future generations, opening doors for artists like Michael Jackson, Whitney Houston and others. However, Motown's impact goes beyond music. Think about how its artists influenced fashion, dance, and even social justice movements. The polished looks of the Supremes and the electrifying performances of the Jackson 5 set standards for stage presence and styles that artists still emulate today. Motown didn't just define an era, it created a legacy that's still shaping music and pop culture today. Its songs are timeless, the artists are legends, and its influence is woven into the fabric of everything from pop to hip-hop to R&B. The catalogue is still one of the most celebrated in music history, whether it's sampled in a Drake track, featured in a movie, or performed by a new generation of artists. Motown remains as relevant today as it was 60 years ago.